My life in Vietnam is not safe because I was in the army before.
The Khmerus would find out that I work for the U.S. and would kill me.
We have to try to find a way to get out from Vietnam because of the communists.
Đi cán bộ sau khi Việt Cộng về thì bị đi cải tạo.
After the fall of South Vietnam, and they put me in the education camp for 4 months. After getting out, I became a fisherman. But most what I made, I had to take in for the government, and I had very poor condition of living, and we are dreaming to getting out, and I'm very happy to make it.
Could we visualize conditions which would lead us to place our wives and children in frail river boats to set out on the sea a voyage of hundreds of miles at the risk of never making it? Or attempt to cross the Mekong tied to inflated plastic bags after walking for days without shoes and without food through dense forests? Yet they continue to come, even though they know that the countries to which they are fleeing do not want them, and even though they know that they may be pushed back across the river or out to sea where pirates may swoop down on them, stealing their belongings, raping their women, kidnapping their daughters. A new dimension has been added to the horror, as if the readiness to let them drown were not horrible enough. And this is, of course, what this historic meeting is all about.
Homeless persons now number 13 million worldwide. They are the survivors of an often hazardous and terrifying escape. In the first country that will accept them, they are kept in temporary camps under the care and maintenance of the United Nations. Conditions are extremely basic. There's nothing for refugees to do but wait.
22nd chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, where the Pharisees...
St. John Lutheran Church in San Antonio, Texas, is meeting to decide if it will become a sponsoring congregation to provide immediate care for a refugee family and find them a home, employment, and school for the children.
Important commandment, and the second most important commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Let's look at how it will be for us, for we know we are saved. We know we are loved. We have accepted the love of Christ. It's a small thing that we do. To give a cup of water to someone, to give some clothes, that's really small. But we're going to be surprised when he says, I was the refugee. I was the stranger. I was hungry. I was without a home. I was in need. It does seem that St. John's Lutheran Church could hardly make a dent, even if you sponsored 3 families right now, say. But if we join hands, and you've got to see yourself as joining hands with others, and then we can make a dent. In our case, we found the best way to do this was to just put out the need.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the Trunty Chi, 62 years old, with a 10 and 12-year-old son, had escaped. She walked 300 miles and stood 10 days and nights in a swamp with water up to her knees with those 2 children, waiting for the contact to get out. There was a group of 40 and a group of 20. They split. She was in the group of 20. The 40 were exterminated, and she watched it. Look at the odds this lady has beaten up to this point. Just unbelievable odds.
And we know others who overcame such odds, like the persons displaced after World War II, the Hungarians in the 50s, and the Cubans in the 60s. Lutherans throughout the world have always been concerned about refugees.
The policy is to accept refugees without regard to nationality, religion, race, or political opinion. And in this way, we have become involved with the, for instance, Ugandan, Asian refugees, with the Vietnamese refugees, Cambodian refugees, etc. The Lutheran Immigration Refugee Service has, at this moment, a very large Indochina refugee program going. But at the same time, we have also currently programs for Latin American refugees. Recently, we had the Kurdish refugees and any refugee who happens to be eligible and needing our work.
We in Lutheran Social Services, as in all of the Lutheran Immigration Refugee Service staff, knowing that there are still over 100,000 refugees in Indochina, many refugees in Chile, now in Argentina and other parts of the world, realize that we have a big job to do in resettlement. We've only had a little over 60% of the churches involved in our particular area, and we hope to get the other 40% involved, either in direct sponsorship or in assisting other congregations to sponsor.
I think Jesus Christ gave us the example of reaching out to more than the persons who are part of the already existing religious community. He reached out himself to persons who were far beyond that.
We need in this country to be responsive to other people's desires and what they are looking for in America. But we need also for ourselves to renew the sense of America being an experiment that was launched by immigrants, that has been sustained by immigrant dreams, and will be renewed by immigrants.
Why should we be over there sponsoring them when there is so much need and pain here? I would imagine because, here again I got to fall back on my theology, but also because of the wealth that is here in America. Yes, even in the black community. I feel that we haven't shared as we should have shared. And I don't see so much giving of money as much as I do giving love, care, tenderness. You're somebody. There's reason for being. The money is incidental. And I think black people have a lot of love to give.
It's one thing to talk to congregations that have sponsored before. They know the joy. They know the difficulties that were involved, but most of them have come back with great joy in the ministry that has really brought them together in a common cause. But the congregations that haven't done that have to be convinced that this is the way it should go.
When I was at St. Martin's in Houston, we had sponsored a group, a family, a Vietnamese family, and in fact found that we made many mistakes, the biggest of which was to offer the coppers continually without the Christian love, something which the government could easily do. But it was in fact the Christian love that was needed more than the coppers. The coppers came easy.
Well, what my thought was, will they take menial jobs rather than wanting to start at the top? I mean, that you could locate them easier this way into the working.
Okay, there will be an occasional exception, but almost overwhelmingly, they want an entry-level job to get started.
And then work up from
And they're
there.
willing to work at that until they can move to where they want to be and fulfill their goals and dreams.
Congregations find jobs, even for refugees who don't speak English, and they assist them in learning the language because it is the key to future advancement. As part of the workforce, refugees quickly learn about their new country.
I, for one, intend to welcome all refugees from tyranny like they were the Pilgrims of 1620 who are our first refugees. In my family, we have a group of foundries. A foundry in Wichita, for example, employs 15 of the refugees. They lost one because he wanted to go to school and he left for the university. And he left under very good circumstances. The rest are excellent workers, as was the one that left. One other foundry has one refugee, all sponsored by the churches.
Je m'excuse, Monsieur Marv, puis-je vous rappeler bientôt? Ah oui, merci. À tout à l'heure. Yes. I started at the very bottom of the ladder. I picked apples, I swept floors, I washed dishes, I cooked hamburgers, and I also drove a taxi in New York. I tried to get a job that was really suitable for my background, but it takes some time. It does take some time.
One of the women said that you do realize that for 3 to 5 years that they're protected, they do not pay any Social Security. It's misconceptions like this that cause problems with people wanting to sponsor refugees and seeing them being brought into the country. They pay Social Security the same as we do, pay their taxes. Anyone that works in the United States does.
People wonder why we want to bring in more people to support. And our response has always been that we are not interested in bringing another family to add to our welfare system, but that we want to assist this family in becoming a self-sustaining family and on their feet as quickly as possible after they arrive.
Are you given some form of advance notice by nature of this, I mean a dossier, as to who you are expecting, what type of people these are? What can you do to acclimate them very easily into society?
They don't package and ship to you. You know, you have a chance to look at one of these and make the decision, look at the skills and the needs.
How do the children go to school? How do you go about?
Okay, you get in touch with the school people until you can find someone who's responsive. And they have experience with refugees. And they will evaluate what class situation the child should go into.
Minnesota. Who knows where Minnesota is? Ann, could you come and show us where Minnesota is? Minnesota. It's up here by the lakes. That's right, there's Minnesota. Anything that is sent home is tended to, returned within a day or two. It has been a pleasure. They have been the most responsible children that you can imagine. There are certain sounds that they do not have in their language. So we have a speech teacher available in this school, and she has been working on those specific sounds.
Drug.
Doc. Are you ready for me to test you, hon? Will you read the cards for me?
Yes.
Very good.
What is step number one in the procedure of bringing a family? It's very nice to sit around the table and discuss these things, but how do we correlate some of these things?
I would see step one is the decision to enter this ministry, to decide to sponsor a refugee family. Step two would be to find the core people who will come forward and say, yes, I will meet them on a face-to-face basis. I can get involved in the face. Parallel with that is the larger group that will say, I can help with material or with money.
I think that we've been dragging our feet for a long time, for about 2 or 3 years around here, and I feel really badly about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a church as large as this is, we should have sponsored several families already.
I would like to form a sort of a temporary, say, task force among ourselves, or somebody with, sponsored by maybe the Social Concerns Committee or some nucleus in which to build.
If every person here tonight could commit themselves to that much and put their name and what they are associated with within the congregation, be it the choir or be it the brotherhood or whatever, by that, a resolution with that kind of support to the Board of Elders should show the interest.
Anybody want to sign?
Sure, why not? Start it.
We found that the greatest holdup in offering sponsorship was saying, we can't find adequate housing. Heaven knows whatever the people can have here is much more than what they have where they are.
Pastor, will you help me to take this chair in?
Sure will. That's how we get it. That's why so we can get through the door.
The essential thing is to remove these people from the life-threatening situation that they're in and bring them to the United States. And then you can worry about all the other niceties later on in life.
We brought warm coats for everyone in the family. We have hats and scarves and mittens for the children. We also have shoes and quite a few pairs of fur-lined boots along. We knew last year that some of the group that came over in January, one of the children came in their bare feet. So we felt that we wanted to bring ample warm clothing along for them as soon as they got off the plane. Here we have a coat. Okay, what are yours? So you get inside. Okay. Yes. That feel better? Now, do all the boys have a coat? He doesn't have one. Does he understand we're making a movie?
Cầm lên chơi rồi. Cầm lên chơi. Đứng đó cười. Cầm lên chơi. Cầm lên chơi.
This is the Pastor home.
Boy, glad to meet you. I'm Ken Homer from Trinity Lutheran Church in New Holland.
His wife.
Hi.
Okay, Marty, you have a puzzle, and okay, give me one to each of the other boys back here. Okay, one for each of you.
I imagine you're very tired after your trip. Très fatigué.
It's for you.
This family was processed out of Southeast Asia only 28 hours ago, leaving behind many relatives, perhaps forever.
When these folks did arrive, we found that the youngest boy had infection of measles, and we were a little concerned to be sure that he didn't have any other parasitic infections, and it was ruled out through the smears and tests and x-rays. Sit back in here. Say, ah. Ah, there you go. Ah. Good. Turn over this one. You feel pretty good now? Tốt hôm nay khỏe không con? Yes. When the Vietnamese people came to town, I offered to take care of any medical examinations or any medical conditions that I was able to do without charge, because I had sympathy for the folks, what they had gone through, and I was always willing to help humanity. On the whole, the health of the refugees has been very good, though, that are coming to our area, even though they have gone through many hardships in the last months, maybe a year, in refugee camps. The church bring us to find out a house, give us the furniture, everything we need for the first beginning, more than we expected. So that we are very happy to receive these things from the churches. And because there are 4 churches sponsored my family, so we have to divide it out time in the future. This week go to this church, the next week we go to the next church, and we go around so that we have opportunity to go to the one church once a month.
How do you spell your son's name?
His name is spelled L-I-N-H, and it's pronounced Lin.
Lin.
Their names aren't that difficult.
No, they aren't. They aren't.
And we-
Or are we becoming more familiar with Vietnamese names?
Maybe you are.
The most difficult, I think, for the first one, is Khoa. It's pronounced Khoa,
Khoa.
and it's spelled K-H-O-A.
K-H-O-A.
That's Khoa.
They met as sponsors and refugees. Now they know each other as friends and neighbors.
Financially, we'll be completely on our own. And after we get jobs, I and my wife, both got jobs, and then we'll be our own. But the church still gives us spiritual support. We never thought about to buy this house here, as a matter of fact. And so they encourage us. They said, because over there, the house we lived, before, and the landlord intend to sell the house, and we have to look for another place. And we discussed this matter with the church folks. And so they said, go ahead, and if you think you can handle the payment, it's rather to buy a house better than to rent another place.
This is a microwave oven. Here. This is Mexican food. Like Mexican food, it's very hot, and it takes just a minute to cook it in here. You put it in here, and just real quick it gets done. See? Can you see yourself? That camera's taking a picture of us and showing it on here. Did you have a television in Laos? Yes. You had a TV in Laos?
Oh, he wants me to drink. Okay. Her brother from Houston was here. And I asked him if she had made this because she had showed it to me. This is not their normal attire that he explained. He says, but for special ceremonies, he says, although this is not used in the modern Lao culture, This is handmade. It's kind of a quilted stitching, but this is supposed to be her handmade gift to her mother. In his biography, when we received it, Pastor, I believe one of the jobs that he indicated an interest in is that he could make jewelry for a living. So he has made this jewelry himself, and it's very intricate work, and especially when you see the tools that he's working with. The tools that he works with are equivalent to a mallet, and I just can't imagine how he works with a mallet and comes out with something like this.
When we understand our relationship to God and our position in His creation and our joy in His salvation for us, free and, full of grace, then I have only one response to give, and that is to help people to understand that I can do this for them because God has done it for me. So, the point that we have tried to get across to our people is that every individual Christian has a responsibility toward the people who have no home.
You clap your hands and you hold them tight. Shake them to the left, shake them to the right. Turn one hand high, the other hand low. Clap 3 times, roll that dough. Point the left elbow and then the right. Clap your knees and you hold them tight. A reach up high, then down low. Get on.